right. Hello, everyone. Okay, I think I'm just going to leave my camera just like this. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hot Topics. I got to bring my camera down. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it just like that. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hot Topics. My name is Gabrielle. I'm so excited that you guys are with us today. Let me tell you what this show is about. So this is the show where we like to have real talk about real things, right? So we like to focus on things in education, things in what else? Entrepreneurship, empowerment. We like to talk about health, mental health. We've done episodes on homeschooling, disabilities, self-care. I'm trying to think what else. We've done a whole lot about mindset. So we've covered a lot of different ground here, and that's what we focus on as we are a tutoring company produced by A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So, of course, we consider ourselves an educational program with a unique spin, of course. So, welcome to Hot Topics. And I am excited about today because today we have a brand new topic and a brand new guest. I am excited about all of that. I just so happened to discover my guest on Facebook, and we actually went to high school together. So I think we were already Facebook friends, but then I saw her in the podcast group, and I was like, hey! So I grabbed her for the show. So let me tell you what the topic of the show is. So the topic of the show today is the WokeNFree Mindsets. The WokeNFree Mindset. I am going to learn what that is, and our guest is going to talk about that. So, the WokeNFree Mindset. So, I'm here to learn something new. You're here to learn something new. Let's do it. All right. So, my guest today, her name is Natasha Nurse. And let me tell you, she has a podcast, WokeNFree, and is brought to you by Khalil, which is her husband, and herself, who are interested in being honest and real with each other and the world. Get a glimpse into the minds of a couple with a different take on hot topics, and you'll learn about that on their podcast, which we will reference later, of course. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to bring Natasha to the stage. Hi, how are you
Hi
doing?
there. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for coming on the show. It's
Absolutely.
so funny running into each other. Can you believe? Yeah, I think how long has it been? I know 2000
So we graduated
yeah,
2010.
like 15,
Yeah.
17 years ago.
Whew. Nice that. Yeah. It has been a minute.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's funny how, with the power of social media, we're
Mhm.
able to find ourselves back together.
Absolutely.
All right.
So yeah, I'm happy to talk and thank you again for having me. I created Woken Free with my husband over 5 years ago, September 5th, actually, 2017.
All
Uh,
right.
and it was because him and I, Khalil's his name, so in the event that I keep saying him, that's Khalil. Khalil and I were really interested in bringing forth what we've been doing now. We've been together over 18 years together, and we've been having dynamic, meaningful, entertaining, educational conversations, but we weren't seeing that on a main stage. We weren't seeing that from the perspective of, educated, entertaining, Black folk, where, instead we have different types of content by content creators that are of color, but a lot of times, especially around the time when we started our podcast, it was a lot of like negative narrative around like Black love is not real or doesn't exist. And then also, it was a really interesting time of our country. So when we are seeing people debate, they were very tribal, very, incapable of having a positive conversation that, allowed for folks to disagree and disagree civilly, being civil around their disagreements. So that's why we kind of brought that to the forefront, and it's been wonderful. As you introduced us, we have topics around health, around culture, around music, around oh gosh, technology, couple stuff, love, romance, education, and so much more. And so all of that to say, the WokeNFree mindset is a mindset where you are open to having conversations where you can learn, where you can grow, where you can challenge yourself, and you can also be able to continue on that journey. And so for all of us, if anyone is thinking they know everything, false news, fake news, really. Life is literally a journey of learning and growth and development. And so that's what WokeNFree is about. It's about coming to the table and being open to saying, I don't know, and also being open to say, I do know something, but I don't know every aspect of it, or I don't know it from someone else's lens. And being able to open your ears. We have 2 ears, 1 mouth. That means we need to do more listening and less talking, and hear other people and hear other perspectives and challenge yourself to see things differently. And that's what being WokeNFree is all about. Plus, it's just like a cool ass name. So, that's just where we're at with that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So now you have the word woke in
Mm-hmm.
there. So do you mind telling us what that word means?
Yeah, so I would say, I'm obviously not a dictionary, but wokeness, and I know that. So, like, I feel like there was a time where that was a celebrated term, and now I feel like people are like attacking that space.
Yeah.
I still see it from a positive lens, which is the space of trying to unlearn and remove yourself from things that were indoctrinated in us, and from all different perspectives, not just a black lens, but from women are taught certain things about our society and culture, and you should just do things, and we have to unravel some of that, and
Yeah.
you have to do that in every community, within every identifier. So wokeness is around really unraveling the usage, you should do this, or things can only operate from that space. That's how I see wokeness. And it's not a matter of saying, wokeness means only liberal or have to kind of fight against the machine. It doesn't have to be antagonistic. Wokeness doesn't have to be burning down the building. It's just about enlightenment, and it's about understanding, wow, there's a different way to see things. So that's why we chose that. And then the and free part is, again, the freedom of thought, the freedom of expression, the freedom to agree to disagree. Because if you listen to our show on WokeNFree.com, you will hear me and my husband are very different. Like our family or people who are like, they think they know us. They're like, you guys are the same. No, we're like 1,000% different people. But we both have certain philosophies or tenets of our life that we agree to be able to say, hey, I can learn, I can always be better, and I can hear you. I may not always agree with you, I may not even partake in whatever you're suggesting, but I can hear you. And that's a tenet of our show, it's a tenet of our life, and we're just trying to bring that to folks, and we're grateful. We have international listeners, we've had a lot of wonderful growth this year, especially. We've been highlighted and featured on Podbean, where our host is Podbean, and they featured us. We hit over 21,000 plus downloads this year. We've just been so entirely blessed and grateful for everyone who does take the time to listen, because, time is the most valuable asset you have. And whenever you give that, that's the greatest honor of respect you can give to another person, because you can't get your time back. So when you spend it, you need to be very intentional about how you spend your time. And we're happy for everyone who's going on this ride and this journey with us. And we encourage people too. Like, so that's why I'm so excited to be here with you. Like, you're creating a space for people to learn, a space for people to grow. And it's so important, especially through the lens of, people of color content creators. It's so critically important to have spaces like this.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So now one of the things that I hear you say is the freedom to disagree, and the
Yeah,
freedom of
yeah,
thoughts and expressions. And
yeah.
so how do you agree to disagree? Let's do that. How do you
Mm,
hear, someone has a different opinion than yours,
yeah.
and how do you find a middle ground there? Like how does
Mhm.
that work?
Great question. So for the listeners listening and watching, I am also a New York licensed attorney, right? And so if you know of any attorneys or have any touch to attorneys in your life, you know that we can be naturally very argumentative people. And we can also sometimes be a little bit of a know-it-all type of personality type, right? There's a certain personality type that's interested in law and regulation and law school. And so for me, I always have to keep myself in check because I'm like, I'm right 87% of the time. And it's like, okay, gosh, well, there's still something to learn. So calm down. Let's listen. And so what I try to do is when he is talking, and there's banter, right? Because he's my husband, 18 years. I'm like, okay, Khalil, like, but I try to listen to him. And if I give my opinion and then his opinion is starkly different than mine, and then I retort and then he retorts, and it seems like we're not coming to a meeting of the minds where he's still on the left and I'm still on the right, or vice versa, then I say, okay, agree to disagree, right? But consider da da da, and he may have another retort because I also like to have the last word in text message and in conversation, and and we take it from there. But again, I always continue to challenge myself when people are talking to listen to what is being said and listen to where we differ, right? Because there's going to be specific contention points that are brought up in a conversation. And so challenge yourself when you're hearing something that you disagree with. Why do you disagree with it? Is it factually based? Is it just your belief system? Is it that it makes you uncomfortable? So that's why you're like, no, this is too different. I can't even, right? And so really when we disagree, and as human beings, it's really about just taking the opportunity. It's a really cool opportunity to figure out, why do you disagree? Why is it so different from where you're coming from? And maybe you need more time. Maybe you need more space, some information, right? Like sometimes people feel rushed to kind of like switch sides or come up. No, like life is a process. Learning is a process. If you disagree, but you need more time with something, that's okay, right? You can be like, let's put a pin in this. Let me go and do my research. Let's come back 2 weeks later, a week later, especially like with friends or in a safe space. You should have the right to do that. And so we like WokeNFree to be that space for people where they're listening to a new topic every single week. They listen, maybe they agree, maybe they don't agree, maybe there's something they have to put a pin in it. We hope that the listener goes and takes the time to go and look something up and to revisit that. And again, challenge themselves every week. Take the opportunity at least one day a week to challenge yourself in thought, challenge yourself in your beliefs, because it's only going to make you a better person, a better parent, a better friend, lover, ...
Right. And so you bring up an interesting point about challenging yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because, I think we have a tendency to want to be right. And that's something that we grew up with, especially with our parents, or like, I'm right and you're wrong. But, or, I'm the parent, you have to listen to me. And, that's a mentality that we end up carrying into adulthood. And so when we meet other people who think differently than us, we want to be like, oh, I'm right and you're wrong. But you bring up an interesting point about breaking down those barriers and actually listening to what they're saying and thinking about it like, you're coming from a different perspective. You're coming from a different life experience. You see the opposite side of things, and to actually hear what they're saying and to do research into what they're saying, and and even keeping an open mind to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, even, and as parents, we had our son June of last year, and that's been a really interesting ride just generally in life. When people tell you to have kids, like, give them the side eye a little bit. That's for the birds. I love my son, but children are crazy. They will make you stretch and flex in ways that you couldn't even imagine. But even that, like, me and Khalil grew up very different in this country, the same country. But again, I come from Caribbean roots. My mom and dad are from Jamaica. And, again, anyone listening or watching, if you know Jamaicans, if you know our like Caribbean culture, and it's different per island, there's different communities, but it's a one specific lens of Blackness compared to, Khalil had a more like American focused type of culture. And so now we've blended and we have this child, and like there's certain beliefs that I'm breaking down to say what I want to transfer over versus I do not want to traumatize my son with, and vice versa. And yeah, it's so interesting just how your life, how you can view things differently. I feel like, the more that we do the show and the more that we continue to do the work and try to challenge ourselves, like even better parents we're going to be, because it forces you to generally, for us to do our episodes, we have to like get our notes together and just continue that process of doing your research, doing your homework. Absolutely, you should have an opinion, but like, what is the basis of your opinion? Is it something you plucked out of the sky, or are you doing your homework? Are you looking at what's going on in the world and what, different stakeholders of organizations or, leaders are saying, and then coming to the table with your own opinion? Or are you just following what people say blindly and not even doing the work? It really, we hope that this is adding and making people like just approach their life differently, because it really helps us approach our life differently.
Yeah. So now so when we hear what someone else is saying, like, do we want them to back it up with facts, or is it because sometimes people say things because it's how they feel, or it's what they see, or it's what they were taught, right? But it isn't exactly what it is supposed to be, or so what do you say to that? Like, some people just talk because it's what they feel, right? Not that it's factually true.
Yeah, another brilliant question. So, absolutely, to be human is to have your feelings and to be all up in your feelings. Absolutely. But if we're creating policy, if we're creating guidelines, if we're having the nerve to tell somebody what to do with their life or their body or something of magnitude and significance, you absolutely need a little bit more than feelings to justify that statement or that instruction to someone else. And we have to be careful, because when we start to like say, well, prove what you mean, right? Like, depending upon how it's said or who it's coming from, that can dip right quick into the microaggression space, right? As I'm sure you agree, as a Black woman living in this world, we are constantly challenged as to proving and justifying and validating why we are and who we are and why we're in this space. And so it gets a little bit challenging. So I would say, if you're having a conversation and someone says to you something and either you don't agree or you're curious to understand the validity behind what they're saying, right? Come at it from a space of curiosity. Don't come from a space of like, why do you think what you're thinking? Or you can't be right. You don't have any, right? Like, don't be accusatory. Ask, right? Wow, thank you for sharing your thoughts. I always try to thank people for sharing their thoughts, even if their thoughts are wild and crazy. We have to validate people, and people need to feel heard and seen in this world. So many people are hurt and broken. So first, let's validate. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. It could be the craziest thing you've ever heard in your life. Thank you. Right? Let's start from there. And then, so that's so interesting, right? I hadn't heard it or I hadn't seen it from that perspective. Is there more information that you could share around that, or do you share this belief with other communities, or right? Like, try to go about it in a way that's from a space of curiosity, not from a you're wrong space, but like, I want to know more. Tell me more. How did you come to discover this belief? How did you come across, or what are things that helped you form that belief? Right. And that invites people again to that keeping them in that validated space of like, wow, this person is hearing me. They want to know more. Cool. And maybe they'll feel safe enough to share, well, this is just something my mom taught me, or this is something that's been passed down, or this is a cultural tradition, or whatever the validity is. And again, it is humans. You have the right to take or leave what is before you. So maybe you want to go and do more research and find out and then make a decision if you're going to agree or disagree. Maybe you're like, that bomb's crazy. I don't know if we can curse here. So, and that's okay, right? And everyone's entitled to their belief system. I think the only issue where we see, like, especially, I won't name, that one that he shall not be named, but everyone probably listening knows the person in my mind. People can have their beliefs, right? And they can offend people. But when we start to create harm, right? When we start to create emotional distress, when we start to create a space where people feel unsafe because of someone's beliefs, or they're touting something to the point where it is now deemed as hatred or discriminatory or even inciting violence or harm. That's where we have to get very careful around. And again, we're balancing freedom of speech, and I'm not going to go into a legal conversation, but it's, you know, it's just a part of the conversation of like, what can we say? What should we say? And I was just having a conversation this morning with my husband, which is about the idea that like impact, right? We always, when we're communicating, we cannot forget impact. What you say has impact. So it doesn't matter what your intention is. It's about how it impacts others. Because you could intend to be honest and free and but if you're ending up impacting people harmfully and you're causing distress, is that worth it? Is that the contribution you want to make in this world? Or could we do better? Can we find a better way to share our message?
Yeah. So there's a couple directions that you took that, right? So the first thing you brought up is the way that we approach opposing views, right? So you said don't come at it as a you're wrong mentality. You know, you just come to keep an open mind about it. So, and you're right about that. So it's the tone that we say our words, and you want to be respectful about it. You want to be cordial about it. Like, oh, I never expected that. You know, tell me more. I want to know about that. So it's the tone that we approach that. That's one thing. And then the other thing is the things that we say, you know, it can raise to the point where it can harm somebody and it can put somebody in danger. So someone's opinions can actually be harmful to people. So there is power in words. So that's another thing that you brought up. So some things that come to mind as you were talking, a lot of hot button ones. I'm thinking what's things off the top of my head where there's so many opposing views. So of course politics is one, right? Politics, religion, I think people's food choices, like eating meat versus being vegan. What else? I think when it comes to mothers, like breastfeeding versus formula, types of the discipline, you know, I don't want to say capital punishment, but
punishment,
you know, spanking versus timeouts. So how does that work? Well, especially with, I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but you and your husband, like now that you have a child, has those conversations come up where you talk about discipline, where you, well, let's focus on that. If you've talked about discipline and correction and things like that.
Absolutely. So yeah, me and Khalil, we met when we were 18 years old, and we talked about having kids when we were 18. You know, we're the type of, so how I date and how I operate in love is I do like full on FBI interrogation type of conversation, and Khalil loves it. Most people, that's why I don't have a lot of friends, because people are like, ooh, a bit too much, doing too much, going too deep. But I like that. I'm not a person who likes small talk. I'm a person who wants to know, what are your inner, you know, goals? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? How do you envision disciplining your child? Like, I am that person. And we had those conversations. We had names picked out. We did all of that years before we got to the stage in our life, because we wanted to make sure that we wouldn't get, because we've seen that, right? People get married and they're like, how could you feel that way? And it's like, could you not have had a moment to discuss that prior to the wedding, prior to the marriage? It is what it is. Everybody's got to orient and shift how they want to do. But for me, I love a good plan. I'm a Virgo, and my dad was in the British Air Force, so he raised me in a very militant style, and I want structure and order, and I don't want surprises. Like, I understand life in of itself is a surprise. I'm not trying to add to that. Like, I'm trying to clarify along the way in the journey, so that as I get surprised, like, I'm prepared because I've covered this, that. Okay, I just got to close the window instead of the whole house falling apart. Like, can we please try? So for us, yeah, like I was beat, not a lot, because I was left alone at the age of 6. Sorry, Dad, Mom. You were negligent. And I was a good girl. Like, I could never leave my son, KJ. I won't leave him till he's 18. Like, that's a wild one, that one. But I was a good girl. I was terrified of my dad because he was just a really stern Jamaican man who did not play any games. And I was not the one to test him. Like, try again. Not today, Satan. And so I was good. I was very obedient. But there were times where, again, as you can tell, I'm a talker. And I talked a bit too much and definitely got the beatings on the booty, got, the welts on the neck, and all of that good jazz. Husband, Khalil, he was not physically beat by his mother, but he definitely, things, it was, things happened in the house where, it was maybe a little bit more savage than it needed to be. So we both agreed that for us to have a child, to break those generational curses of physical violence towards your children, if you do the studies, it doesn't make your child more disciplined. It in fact creates a more sense of fear within your child, because what are you teaching them, right? Like, what is the problem you're trying to solve? When you hit your child, how is it changing their behavior? Is it really changing their behavior, or are you just shutting your child down? You're just shutting them down, and you're expressing your own frustration through physical violence. So it's more about you than it is about the child. And again, with children, it needs to be child-centric.
Yeah.
What are you doing for the child? Not for you. Because, your kid can drive you crazy. My son drives me crazy every single day. I have to walk away and say, ooh, give me one moment, please, and get myself together. And it's better to do that than to unleash physical harm onto him, right? Like, that's just not going to do anything for him. But everyone's got to parent how they want to parent. That's how we parent. And for us, we talked about that beforehand, and it makes sense. And it was, it was interesting because when he brought it up to me, like, I don't want to, have any corporal punishment in our household. Like, I guess a part of me kind of assumed that I would do it just because, again, like, my dad experienced that, my mom experienced that, I experienced that. And I just thought it was going to be natural, but it was like, oh yeah, you're right. Like, I don't have to inflict harm. I don't have to inflict trauma. I can do something different, because that's the beauty of having a child. Like, as long as you're not hurting them, you can do whatever you want with them. So that was our measure for saying, you know what, we're gonna talk this out. And it's hard. He's a very intelligent child, and that creates another level of conflict, or complexity rather, because again, intelligent people, you can't just say don't do this, right? Because what are they gonna say? Why can't I do this? Why and even if I yell, like, he's so funny where he'll yell back. I'll be like, stop, and he'll be like, ah, and I'm like, oh my God. And it's just funny because it's like, I'm not doing anything, and he's obviously making it clear just how silly and ridiculous I'm being, because it's like calling back at me. So it's like, all right, player, I understand the assignment. Mommy's sorry, we're going to take it further. We're going to move on. But it's really been enlightening, really interesting experience.
Yeah. So it's like you're definitely a planner, right? So you talked about all this before, so it wasn't like it wasn't a surprise to you, like, oh, we have a baby now, what are we going to do? Like, you planned all this out beforehand.
Oh, so getting pregnant, listen, we were together 17 years before we had a baby. So
I meant the discipline talk. Like, you're saying that you talked about it with your husband before.
Oh yeah.
Right. And then the baby came, as opposed to, like, you didn't really talk about it. And then here comes the baby. Oh, now what are we gonna do? So it sounds like you two talked about the way that you're gonna raise your family together years before.
Yeah, very methodical. We were together 9 years before we were married. And I also recommend, I know people are like, that's crazy. Like, I don't know. I mean, for like, if you intend marriage to be a long haul for you, and again, very boring. I know this world is filled with lots of different orientations for relationships. Ours is just him and I, a relationship. And it's, a very stable and nice and boring lifestyle, which we like, because again, life is dramatic enough. So, we want to understand why we're doing what we're doing, and looking back at whatever we experience, the good, the bad, and everything in between, how can we do things better? How can we make his life better? How can we ensure that he doesn't feel shut down? Khalil, being a Black man, he expressed even just like, he recognized that if he was too boisterous or he was too intellectual, that, the teachers would essentially be like, oh, something's wrong with him. Let's put him in this, that, and that. And then he had to essentially shut himself down. And so that's a part of why for us, we want to be a little bit even more unconventional with our schooling, because if you do the research, there are 20 states in the United States that allow corporal punishment in the schools, Arizona being one of them. And I'm not going to prison. So you try to touch my child, we have to have problems. And I will not hold myself back, because that's my baby. Took too long to get him here. I refuse to allow anything crazy to happen. I need to orient myself in a way that I create an environment where he can foster, where he can be himself, and he views life through opportunity, not limitation. And so many young Black boys and girls go to school and they're shut down. I remember also being very boisterous in school, and teachers like shutting me down. And it's like, why? And I get it, right? They have to have order. They have to have structure. But certain personality types learn different. And we need to have parents. I think the onus is on you. You made that baby. So you need to find a way to create an environment that's best for that child, not what society should tell you what to do, right? Again, as long as your child's not hurt, you can be as creative and that you can be within the confines of societal rules and state and federal regulations.
Right. So in that example, it sounds like, there's an example when it comes to schools, right? So there's another hot button topic, homeschooling versus public school.
Yeah.
The schools in Arizona, you said, allow corporal punishment, and they may have they have a reason for that, but you decided that you're not going to go along with that, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if any, like, a principal told you, like, this is the reason why that we do it, and but you decided to take yourself away from that and pursue homeschooling. So so it's not like you went along with it, right? And even you just said you understand that, okay, there's a lot of kids, there needs to be order, there needs to be control, but you have the mental awareness to say, I don't want this for my kid. I'm going to remove myself from that situation. And so sometimes when you approach opposing views, right, and it's you still want to keep the open mind, but then there's a point where I need to remove myself because this is not going to work.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And again, like for me, like I, it's a great point you brought up. I haven't necessarily gone and interviewed like principals or certain school administrators to like kind of understand the logic, because for me, there is no logic between behind violence against children. Children are the best parts of humanity. If you look at children and you look at like a happy baby and a happy kid, or you see a sad kid, it's heartbreaking, right? That you can see in the child's eyes what type of life they're having, and I think that children should be cherished. They're the future of a society, and anyone that wants to hurt them or wants to diminish their light, you're literally saying you do not care about the future of humanity. And that to me is wild. And again, maybe they aren't acting with that intention, but again, that is the impact that you're having. If you try to harm, verbally, physically harm a child, you are saying you do not care about the future of the human race. So I do care. And, for me, I carried my son. He was wild inside. He is wild outside. And I love that about him. I love how unapologetic he is. He is dynamic and curious about how things work. Every time we give him a toy, his first thing to do is to turn it around and look at the bolts and to see how it's working, where the sounds are coming. He's very interested. Like, definitely takes that from his father. I'm more the like, ooh, look at the lights. Not like, can I like, he literally wants to take things apart. He's so, in 15 months, these COVID babies come out a little bit different, first and foremost. Come out a little bit. He was trying to hold his bottle at 4 days old. He was trying to bear his weight at 15 days. He's been talking since 5 weeks. I mean, it's nuts. And they're a little bit nuts. But yeah, like, I just see that he's a person who's more unconventional. He's someone who's curious. He's someone who doesn't, like, we take him to story time at the library. FYI, y'all, if you have babies, go to your free public libraries. They do story times for toddlers for free, and get your child to learn how to read and to learn how to engage with other babies. And he goes there and they're like clapping. He's like, I'm not a circus animal. I'm a performing. I'll clap when I want to clap. And that's it. And that's like, and I love that about him. Like, and then like after everyone's done clapping, then he's like, oh, okay, it's time to clap. And like, I already see from that, right, that he's not going to be a person who follows convention. He has to do things how he wants to do it. And as his mother, it's my duty to make sure that I foster environments that allow for that freedom and that a little bit of like extra opportunity to do what you want to do, how you need to do it. And I'm not saying that will he not do homework? Will he not have set hours to do stuff? Of course. I'm a Virgo. I'm a planner. Again, raised very militant. I'm like, Khalil, are you doing this? Like, I'm very disciplined, but I'm also like, this, maybe you need an hour of playtime instead of 30 minutes, right? And so I think the value of homeschool is that it allows parents to create a more flexible schedule. Also for kids who are getting into doing social media, for kids who are actors, for kids who are want to pursue professional sports, you need flexibility in your time. You cannot go to school 8 to 3 and then somehow find time to go to auditions or you know what I mean? Like, so, I just want to give him as many opportunities as possible. And yeah, if I were talking to a parent who was like gun-ho about, no, you should follow this, and at 6 they do this, and thank you for your thought. Thank you for sharing that. But that's not going to work for me. And I hope that you can agree to disagree. And if you can't talk to me or you can't be friends because we view schooling differently, then that's a loss on them. Listen, I'm fine. I'll be all right, boo. But you seem to have a problem, right? Like, that's usually where I leave it at that. And it's like, if you want to re-engage, I'm here to hear you. I'm here to have a civil conversation. But I'm not about to mess up my blood pressure because you can't hardly agree with my lifestyle. Like, okay, that's you.
Right. And of course, having a WokeNFree mindset is there comes, you want to be open to different thoughts and different beliefs, but there's a point where, if there's a line, there's always that line.
Absolutely. The world is made with different people and different thought. If we were meant to be the same, we would be. Right. So I view diversity as literally the example of what this world is meant to be. And it's okay to agree to disagree. It's okay to see things differently. I think the problem lies where, especially like what's going on with like reproductive rights in this country, you can think what you want to think, but when you want to start to govern how other people orient, how they operate, how they deal with their own body, that's where I have an issue, because you cannot command your morals or your belief system onto me, because that's, your belief system. Let's have a conversation, but I believe in full autonomy in thought and in body, like always, right? People have got to have autonomy over their body. Otherwise, what are we doing here? What are we trying to accomplish? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So is the WokeNFree mindset, is this something for adults to hear? Is this something for kids to hear? Who's the ideal recipient of your message?
Practitioner. Yes, absolutely. So I would say both. I think, a child's perspective to WokeNFree is going to be a little bit different in that they're going to be like, I want to watch rated R, right? Like, I want to be free to do that. I was definitely that as a child. There's good and bad, pros and cons for that. But I would say both, but it's going to be contextualized differently, right? So for adults, that's more the let me untie some of the constraints, some of the limitations I've lived with all my life, right? The whole, I can't start a business. Who says? Or the, I can't, move away from my family. Who says? Right? Like that's that type of perspective versus for children, why can't you try a new sport? Why can't you try a new dance? Why can't you try a new language? Right? It's a different context, or it's a different stage in your life, but to be WokeNFree, you can do that from birth until the end. It's about getting yourself to be open to new opportunities, learning about new perspectives and opportunities, deciding what's best for you, and giving other people the freedom and grace to do what they need to do as you do what you do. Like there's a wonderful meme that Cat Williams goes on. I can't say it because I don't know if we can cuss, but he's like, I don't give a what you're doing about your life because I'm too busy giving a about what I'm doing in my life. And it's like, I need to get a tattoo of it because it's so true. Live and let live. Do you, boo, all day long. That's what it's about. It's about giving people freedom and grace to live how they want to live, and to be woke about understanding and learning about the life in the world that you're living in, right? Like there's so many new things that happen for us now that we were not existing when we were in high school. They weren't in existence when we were children, right? So wow, like let's learn. Let's try to find something to learn about every single day, to meet new people and decide what you want to keep and what you leave outside your door. But the point is, don't judge, don't dismiss, don't invalidate. Live and let live others live. That's all. That's what it's about to be woke and free.
Absolutely. So another thing I picked up as well is you seem to be going a different path from the way that you were raised. So
Yeah.
there's also the generational clash,
Mm,
and especially with
mm,
Caribbean parents, because I'm
yeah.
Trinidadian, so
Big
I
up.
know they have that strict,
Yeah.
everybody can beat you, mentality.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh God. The
Right, but
trauma.
it's fun, and then you come to America, it's like, yeah, that you have options and choices, and you're like,
Mhm.
what? So, but it sounds like with this mindset, it's sort of you're doing the opposite of of how you were raised.
Mhm.
That there's more liberty, there's more decisions, there's more
Oh yeah.
choices. So,
Oh yeah.
and that's a vibe that I'm picking up. So am
Absolutely.
I where how am I doing with that? Is that
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, so my mom went to school full time and worked full time. So she was just like out for the count when it came to like, controlling my time. But again, my parents raised me in a very disciplined way where my dad would be out, my mom would be out. I would have the apartment to myself. I grew up in the city in Manhattan, and I would like start my day with getting breakfast, watching cartoons. Then I would play with my Barbies, like when I was little, and then I would like write stories. I've been writing poetry since I was 6. I would do that, and then okay, lunchtime. So I created a regimen. So I had freedom of time utilization, right? And then when it was work, like during the school week, I would obviously do my homework. And again, no one had to micromanage me because I knew the violence of threat was imminent. So I did what I needed to do. I was a good girl, and that was it, right? But yeah, the lack of freedom was the lack of freedom in thought. I had to, follow this behavior, or this is how, this was the lens that we look at blackness, or this was the lens that we look at this and that, the other. And that's definitely where I've broken apart from it. And I now, for my son, again, I want him to have, now I would say probably less freedom from a time utilization than I had, just because I think that was not, like, I'm a unique case. I was a very unicorn type of child to be able to do that and still be successful in how I would define success. Everyone has to define success for themselves, but I would not say that that's a prescriptive method for everyone. That's very rare. Most children need like time regulation in some way or form, and also a guide, a framework of how to orient themselves. And so
yeah.
want KJ to, that's my son's name, Khalil Jordan Nurse, to aka KJ, to understand that he has freedom of thought, but to again take the time to do your homework. Why do you think that way? What is influencing and impacting how you think that way? And then how is that going to affect other people? And then also, how are you using your time? What are you doing for productivity for you? What are you doing for fun? I want him to open himself up to those things. But yeah, I feel like it would be weird if I just replicated what was done to me, right? That means that there wasn't any learning, there wasn't any growth from generation to generation. So I know my dad and mom are like, "Ooh, Tosh, you're crazy," but I think they also respect the fact that like I'm finding my own way, and yeah, it's different from their way, but they knew what they knew, and like they brought. I was born in this country, so I should know better. I should know things different, and thus my son should be better because of that.
So now, what if your son comes to you, 18 years old, and say, "Mom, I don't want to go to college. I want to be a poet. I want to be a full-time poet.
Yeah.
No shade to poets. I'm just saying, I want to be a poet, or something like
Yeah.
I want to go into the music industry.
Mm,
I want to be an actor. I want to,
yeah.
he wants some sort of
Creative
unconventional
approach.
career, or
Mhm,
something that's not as secure as like a doctor or a lawyer. If he's like, oh,
mhm,
I want to be a full-time garbage man,
mhm,
something like
mhm.
that, how would you respond to that?
Great question. So again, I'm a lawyer, but I'm a non-traditional lawyer. So I feel like I have a really interesting background where I respect people from the arts and I respect people who are more conventional. I have a ton of doctors and nurses and lawyers in my family, but I also have people in my family or my extended network that are more creative. And I myself have always lived on both lines. And so I would say, the number one thing I have to accomplish in my life, otherwise I'm going to feel like I was severely not successful, is to make sure that my child is happy. Happiness is paramount, because I realized in my 30s that my father and mother never asked me if I was happy. They never could ever ask me, how is my day going? Right? Like they, and you probably have similar experience being
Yes,
curious.
it is cultural.
Yeah.
There's no
Right?
shade
Like,
to
who
it, but I
cares?
think it is
Like,
cultural. Yeah.
produce. I don't like, what's it matter? Like, right? And that's not the American way, right? We're all about our feelings and we get into it here, but in Jamaica, or just get on and do it, so right? And like you move on with life. And so for me, I even now, he's 15 months. Are you happy, KJ? Does this make you happy? Like, I'm very it's like a really big thing for me, his happiness. So if he said to me, hey mom, I want to go to clown school, because my husband's like, what if he wants to be a clown? I'm like, well, he will be the best clown he wants to be. And that is that. If it's whatever's going to make you happy, if it's going to make you fulfilled, if you're going to put your best foot forward and you're going to try to make the most money and create a lifestyle for yourself, because again, mommy's doing my part to help set you up, but mommy's not affording you forever, boom boom. Like we've got to get it together at 18, right? So I'm trying to do my part financially to help contribute to set him up and have something as a little bit of a nest egg that I didn't have when I went out and was like, oh, I want to go to college. But yeah, do I think college is a definition of being successful? No. The definition of being successful is knowing your purpose and actually executing that. So whether college is a part of that process is up to you.
Yeah.
So if for you, your fulfillment requires a professional degree, then I guess you're going to college and I guess you're getting a graduate degree, right? But if for you, fulfillment is gardening and, helping to create a community around that, then you do that, right? Like you do whatever you need to do. And we as a society, especially, I sit heavy, over well over $300,000 in debt from going to college and doing law school, like to keep it 100. Do I regret that decision? Absolutely not. I'm a stronger, smarter woman for that and parent for that. But does my son need to go down that same route to feel a sense of accomplishment? Absolutely not. He needs to define his purpose, and I need to be on a journey to help him get to that point, and he needs to execute that. And if any college or certain types of funding opportunities are a part of that, then we will make that happen. But I will not judge anyone for whether they pursued a specific educational route or not in life.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's start to wind things down now. So do you have any final words of wisdom that you'd like to leave with our audience? Anything you want to share?
Thank you. Absolutely. First and foremost, share this out, right? If you find a way to, if you're like, I don't know how to help people, share the content. That is one way. And guess what? That's free, y'all. So don't play that game, right? Share. Press the share button on every platform you see this. So that's one. Secondly, thank you. Again, you took the time to watch this live, or you took the time to watch this on the replay. That is the greatest honor and respect you can give me. And I know that, and I greatly appreciate that. So thank you for joining, and thank you for being here for that. Words of wisdom, live your life. I challenge you to be woke and free. I challenge you to constantly seek a new way of seeing things. I challenge you to have difficult conversations with yourself first and foremost, and then with the ones that matter most to you, your chosen family, whether they're your blood or not. I challenge you to eliminate negativity and toxicity in your life. Again, any aspect of your life. I'm cutthroat Virgo. If you are not making this better, you are not here for the story. That is where I'm at with that. And then I challenge you to give people grace. This world would be a much better place if we give others grace and freedom to explore their journey, to explore their thoughts, to explore how they want to orient and present in this world. And you don't have to agree with it, but you can respect people. That is a decency that we can give each other. So I challenge people to be woke and free. I challenge people to listen to my podcast on wokenfree.com. And I challenge you to enjoy every moment. We are here in a blink of an eye, and then we're gone. So please, please, please enjoy the show and enjoy your life. And it's been a pleasure.
Awesome, awesome, beautiful. And on that note, let's jump to your promo. All right. So, you guys, you can find Natasha Nurse. She is all over that social media. She's on that web, right? So, go to www.wokenfree.com. I have the About Us tag, but that's fine. Wokenfree.com. Go there, learn about the podcast, learn about the mindset, learn about everything there is to know about being woken free. So I encourage you to go to her website and learn about the woken free mindset. And she is all over social media. So I encourage you to follow her on all of her social media handles. She's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok with the handle Woken Free. It's very simple. And she also is on YouTube and LinkedIn, just Woken Free. That's it. So it's the same handle for everything. So I encourage you to follow her in everything and stay in touch with her. This information, of course, is at the bottom of your screen right now for my video people. But for my audio people, I did not forget about you. This information is in the description. So I encourage you to look at the description and get that information. All right. So you have a couple of promo and then I have your video. So let's get to it. All right. So you have Woken Free Designs. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we created our own merch shop because people are like, oh, like you should do that. So we did it, and we do it through Bonfire. So it's Woken Free Designs, and so you have a couple of T-shirts which are cool, a hoodie, a cup. So there's even like a onesie if those listening or watching have babies. There's a snuggle because in our house we don't do kisses or hugs, we do snuggles. And so if you want a snuggle onesie, you can definitely get your exclusive one there. And I encourage people, holidays are around the season, why not encourage them to be woken free and get some merch for your loved ones.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, all right. So now let me switch to the other one here. All right, tell us about 86 Facts of Life.
Yeah, so me and my husband Khalil, we wrote a book called Woken for 86 Facts of Life, and it's about the 86 is a number that's important to us because we were born in 1986, but there's a lot of really interesting things that happened in the year of 1986, and so we put together 86 facts of life that people should be mindful of. It's everything from entrepreneurship to mindset to religion to movies. It's hilarious. It's a really easy, affordable book to read. You'll get through it in a day. Again, another really great purchase for your loved ones this holiday season, and just enjoy that. So yes, read. It's on Amazon. Get it today.
Fabulous. All right. And Ko-fi, what is that?
Yeah, so that's for you should join that as well. It's a great platform for content creators and podcasters. You can just you're like, hey, I want to support a content creator. You can send $3, a cup of coffee, and it's we post our episodes there. You can learn more about us. We have different images from our design shop. And so it's just a kind of a thank you page. Like, I want to support you, but I maybe don't have $20 to give you, but I do have $3. I have the amount I could spend. I don't know I don't drink coffee like that. I'm a tea gal. But I imagine if you could spend $3 on a cup of coffee, you could also send $3 to your favorite content creator on the Ko-fi platform.
All right. And tell us about you mentioned it, but tell us about your podcast.
Yeah, so join the Woken Free Nation at wokenfree.com. We do an episode every single Woken Free Wednesday. See the rhythm there? And never missed an episode. We have had an episode every single week for over 5 years straight. That is quite an accomplishment in and of itself. Join us for entertaining, educational conversations around things that are happening in our household, things that are happening in this world. Learn something, laugh along the way, and encourage your friends to join you on this Woken Free journey and movement with us.
All right. And you can find the podcast it's on your website, but it's also on all the other podcasting platforms, right?
Like over 30 plus places. It's a Woken Free world, as we like to say. I'm serial distributor on social media. So we're on Apple, we're Spotify, we're on SoundCloud. We have our YouTube channel. We are Samsung Podcast, Podbean. It's everywhere.
All right, there you go. So wherever there are podcasts, check it out. Woken Free. Is Woken Free Nation or just WokeNFree?
WokeNFree.com. We just call WokeNFree Nation for the people who join us every single week.
All right.
Yeah,
Awesome.
WokeNFree podcast. Mm-hmm.
Great. All right. So I want to make sure we get this video in. So I'm going to play this clip for you guys as part of their promo.
Hey, it's Natasha.
And Khalil.
And we are the co-hosts of
WokeNFree.
If you've been tuning in every week for WokeNFree Wednesday, you know that WokeNFree is all about being real and honest with each other and you. We talk about everything and anything that's important to us, to you, the world, and nothing is off the table.
Make sure you follow us on social media to follow along in the conversation. And make sure you tune in next week for WokeNFree Wednesday to join the conversation at WokeNFree.com.
Wow. If you want to be a guest on the show, I'm still at wow there, guys. But please submit a topic for an upcoming episode. Share how you feel. Hit us up on our Contact Us page at WokeNFree.com. That is WokenFree.com. Again, if you want to hit us up on social media, always feel free to find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at WokenFree. And have you checked out our YouTube channel as well? Go to WokenFree.com. You'll see all of our handles, and I think you'll like all the content out there.
If you didn't already subscribe, please do. Share the episode, and make sure you come back to join the conversation every Wednesday for WokeNFree Wednesdays. Remember, WokeNFree is more than a podcast. It is a way of life. Until next time.
Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. All right. So, Natasha, thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm just going to reiterate that contact information one more time. All right. So, you guys, visit her online. The website is www.wokenfree.com. There's the About Us section, but you could just do wokenfree.com. She is all over that social media. So again, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. The handle is WokenFree for everything. And then YouTube and LinkedIn is also WokenFree. And then the promo, the WokenFree designs. Then they have the book, 86 Facts of Life. And then they have Ko-fi. And then they have their podcast, which is also called WokenFree. So check it out on their website and wherever you get your favorite podcasts, check them out. They are there. All right. Natasha, thank you so much for joining me today. This is awesome.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. All right. I'll place you backstage now. And you guys, it is just you and me. So we have reached the conclusion of yet another episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. So I encourage you to leave your feedback. Please let us know what you thought about this episode by dropping a comment in the comment section or the comment thread. So if you are watching this on video, whether that is Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, drop us a line, drop us a note. Let us know what you thought about this episode. If you are listening to this, whether on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any podcast platform, drop a rating. Let us know what you thought about this episode. We definitely will appreciate the feedback. And as a reminder, this podcast, Hot Topics, is a production of A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So if you are looking for a tutor, right, whether it is for your child or for yourself, because we also work with adults, please reach out to us. Our website is www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. You can also email us, success@astepaheadtutoringservices.com. We are also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and I think there's a couple others, but we also are on multiple social media platforms. Our handle is A Step Ahead Tutoring Services, with the exception of Twitter. Our handle is Tutor ASATS. So check us out on all of our social media platforms and follow us. Definitely follow us. And I also want to let you know that Hot Topics, our podcast, has a text blast. I encourage you to get on it. You will learn about anything and everything there is about hot Topics. You will learn about our live episodes when we drop the audio. Get on that text blast. All you have to do is text the code Hot Topics to 917-764-3975. Again, just text the code Hot Topics to 917-764-3975. And I encourage all of you, I'm going to drop a challenge right now. I encourage you to call your friend on the phone and tell them about the WokeNFree podcast. So I'm giving you guys a challenge. I want you to call I'm going to call 2 friends. I want you, as soon as I'm done, right? I want you to pick up the phone and I want you to call 2 friends and tell them about this show, right? So I'm going to give you guys that challenge. I'm going to pose that challenge to you right now. All right, let's get the word out about the WokeNFree Mindset. That is my challenge to you. All right, and that is it. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please join us at the next episode. Thank you again. All right, you guys. See you later. Bye.